For 2 centuries, the streets of New York City have been more than just a stage for wealth and dreams, they've also been the hunting grounds of the gangs. They manipulate votes, smuggle drugs, bribe the police, and even decide who survives on the streets. The rule of New York's gangs is darker and bloodier than you might imagine. Today, we'll uncover their secrets. In 1880s New York City, there was a fearsome mob, the Short Tails. They were among the most brutal of the 5 Points gangs, active from 1880 to 1890. A police report from the time described them in stark terms: drunkards, thieves, pickpockets, and highwaymen. They were not only street lords but also symbols of the darkness and violence of the era. In late 19th century New York City, there was a slum known as the 5 Points. It was a hotbed of poverty and crime, and the birthplace of the New York City gang. This photograph, taken around 1890, captures a mysterious moment, a secret meeting of an unidentified street gang. In 1910, in the dark corners of New York, an Irish gang called the Gophers was rapidly rising. Known for their violence and brutality, they even controlled most of Manhattan at their peak. In 1938, a group of young men were being registered at a police station in East Brooklyn, New York. They were members of the Dead End Kids, an Italian-American gang. In 1951, a sudden gang fight on a street corner in the Bronx, New York, shattered the city's tranquility. Police quickly arrived, pinning the teenagers involved against the wall and frisking them. The brawl resulted in 2 teenagers being stabbed, one of whom was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. In 1953, a tense interrogation took place at a police station in the Bronx, New York. The 6 young men pictured were members of the notorious Harlem Street Gang, the Dagger Gang. They were preparing to retaliate for an ambush when they were apprehended. Police found 2.22 caliber rifles in their car. In 1954, a tense identification took place at a Brooklyn police station. Edward Walsh pointed to the young man beside him, Jack Coslow, and identified him as the leader of the Brooklyn-based Killing Thrills. The Killing Thrills were a gang known for their sadistic acts across the city, their atrocities shaking the city. In the Bronx, New York, a misunderstanding led to tragedy. A member of the Young Criminals gang, mistaking another teenager for a member of a rival gang, shot and killed him. At the police station, the teen confessed to the crime. He said, "I was just trying to scare him, and the gun went off accidentally." In 1955, a group of unidentified teenagers were wandering aimlessly on East 4th Street in New York City. This photo, taken in 1955, shows a group of teenage gang members bragging about their exploits to a potential new recruit. Their stories might be about a fierce street fight or a successful theft. A group of young gang members roamed the streets. In the mid-20th century, New York City was once ruled by these relatively small street gangs. They controlled the streets, determined the territory, and even influenced the daily order of the community. This photo reveals the truest side of New York street gangs in the mid-20th century. A group of unidentified teenagers gathered together, checking their weapon inventory. For them, these cold weapons are not just tools, they are their means of survival on the streets and their only way to gain status and respect. This photo was taken in 1957. A police officer is warning a group of little boys to keep in line on the street. Their eyes reveal rebelliousness and disdain. Brooklyn, New York, 1958. The 5 young men in this image, their attire and expressions, reveal something unusual. They are not merely gang members, but warriors clad in homemade body armor. These crude vests are evidence of their impending battle against a rival gang. In those days, street gang warfare was far more brutal than one might imagine. In Harlem, New York, in 1958, a street war between gangs rages. Yet, amidst the violence and chaos, some strive for peace. A courageous social worker counsels these young gang members. They sit together, as if in a secret meeting. In 1961, a gang member lay dead on the streets of New York City, shot dead by police. His identity remained unknown, as did the cause of his death. But his death revealed the brutality of gang warfare in New York City during that era. Members of the assassins outside their headquarters on 101st Street in New York City in 1961. At the time, New York street gangs were not just criminal organizations, but also a subculture. They had their own headquarters, their own rules, and their own stories. In 1962, several unidentified gang members fled the scene in embarrassment after a fight. In 1969, in New York's East Village, the young men pictured were members of a motorcycle gang. They were arrested in a 3-room pigsty and munitions factory. They were arrested because police suspected they were involved in the burning death of a suspected rival gang member. The fire transformed their pigsty into an arms factory, transforming them from street youths into murder suspects. In 1970, a massive billboard appeared on the streets of Harlem, New York. In bold red lettering, it read, "Final warning to all drug dealers and gang members." This billboard served not only as a warning to criminals but also as a desperate cry from Harlem residents. They called on the federal, state, and city governments to intervene and clean up their community, ravaged by drugs and gangs. This photograph has become a true microcosm of the New York underworld of that era. This photo, taken in 1970, captures the Rat Pack motorcycle gang in Brooklyn and Queens. Their denim jackets, embroidered with gang insignia, embody the gang culture of the era. They considered their gang their home, their brothers their family, and in the dark corners of the city, they sought their own sense of freedom and belonging. In December 1971, an unprecedented gang conference was underway in the South Bronx, New York. Over 150 black and Puerto Rican youths from 20 gangs gathered in an effort to end the deadly gang-related violence in the Bronx. However, just before the conference, a tragic event occurred. Respected peacemaker Cornell "Black" Benjamin was beaten and stabbed to death while attempting to break up a fight between rival gangs. His death cast a tragic shadow over the peace conference. A crucial gang meeting in the Bronx. At the peace meeting known as Ho Avenue, young members of different gangs engaged in a heated discussion. Their meeting was intended to end the deadly gang-related violence in the Bronx. However, their discussion was filled with anger, distrust, and confusion. They tried to resolve the issue with words, but the long history of hatred and violence had already left indelible scars on their hearts. A crucial peace meeting in the Bronx. The young men pictured were members of the Savage Skulls, a notorious gang at the time. In 1972, Eddie Cuevas, leader of the Reaper gang, and his companions wore denim jackets with the Grim Reaper and Sickle logo, which was full of menace and mystery. A crucial meeting between the Reapers and other gang members. In the past, every conflict between them could have triggered a bloody street fight. However, this time, they chose a different path. Faced with the hatred and violence between gangs, they made a difficult decision: to give up revenge and maintain peace in the community. A 1972 meeting of the Catas Vinchacas gang. They described themselves as more of a recreational club than a gang, but their weapons revealed their true identity. During the meeting, one member displayed a makeshift weapon made from 2 iron pipes and a chain. In 1975, in the South Bronx, New York, the young men in the photo were members of the Puerto Rican motorcycle gang, the Chingalings. Instead of engaging in a street fight, they were enjoying themselves at a dance party. Members of the Bronx Dragon gang on their turf, circa 1975. A member of the Dragon Band gang talks to a police officer on the streets of the Bronx in 1975. The relationship between them and the police was full of tension and conflict, but there were also occasional, peaceful, conversations like this. In 1978, New York police raided the Hells Angels, a notorious motorcycle gang with its headquarters in New York's East Village. However, they were about to face legal action. The police raid was prompted by a horrific report that gang members had kidnapped and raped a young girl. Members of the New York Outlaws gang sit on sofas in a Bronx club in 1975, looking relaxed as if enjoying a quiet afternoon. In 1985, 4 unidentified gang members in Brooklyn, New York, posed for the camera, holding weapons. In their hands, they held not toys, but deadly weapons. Their faces were covered with veils to hide their identities.